welcome to day 8 of Elite 10. I can't believe it's already day 8. This is awesome. So today we're doing a little bit more on WTF, so all about the editing. I'm going to go through a little bit about professional editing, also how to find professional editors, what to look out for, and also how to implement feedback. So tomorrow we're going to go into publishing, which is an extremely important conversation we're having tomorrow. I'm gonna drop some bombshells. Some of you would have heard it before, but some of you wouldn't have. And it's what I'm going to share with you tomorrow in editing is in Loud and Proud, which is all about publishing, is massive. You do not want to miss it. It is the chunkiest, golden, sparkliestness ever. So make sure you join us for that. For now though, let's get into day 8. So yesterday we went over drafts and rewrites, and hopefully you've done your second or third draft. You've perhaps got it in front of somebody to read. I've actually sent mine off today to my critical friend, who is one of the members of this group. So thank you, Kiara, very much appreciated. And when yours is ready, send it to me, and obviously I'll reciprocate on the critical friendship. So, and then when that comes back to me, I'll do my final one, and I'll have my final draft ready for tomorrow night, which is, and then when we go live, we'll be talking about publishing, and then I'll have it published up within 24 hours onto my chosen site. So it's actually going in the Thought Collective, but I'm also going to put it on LinkedIn as well, which is a little added bonus so that I can say it's been published. So here's where we're at. We talked about proofreading and editing for yourself. We talked about doing drafts and rewrites, and I'm just flipping back to make sure I don't miss anything. And we talked about critical friends as well. So tonight we're going to talk about proofs and editing on a bit of a deeper level in regard to professional. We're going to look at professional, we're going to look at friends and family. We're going to have a bit of a discussion around that, and we're also going to look at how to implement feedback. So let's get straight into it. First of all, in regard to proofing and editing with professional services. Now, if you're just doing content or even articles, you don't necessarily need to take this step. But if you're writing a book, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take on a professional proofreader / editor to ensure that you're getting the best quality out there that you want. Now, again, it's not about perfectionism. And if your book comes back and you find an error, you got to remember, beautiful thing about book writing is it's such a people experience. Computers really are just the tools and the implementation. They don't really, do anything. A book is completely a human experience. How cool is that? Yeah. So you do need to remember when it goes away to editing, it's a human experience. So they're not going to get everything because they're not perfect either. So if you're still holding on to perfectionism, you know what? If you're still holding on to perfectionism, you're probably not watching this video because you probably haven't done the first few steps anyway. So you have let go of perfectionism. Well done. If you're writing a book, get a professional editor. So here's a couple of things to be aware of when you're looking for a professional editor. There's professional editors and there's editors. Let me just clarify. So there's people out there that do professional editing. It's their job. It's what they do. They do it daily. They're not necessarily writers, interestingly enough. I know a lot of editors that have never written their own book. They're just really good at editing. That's their thing. Me, I'm not really into it. I don't like the editing that much, so I much prefer to give it to someone who loves that aspect. They love the details. They love getting in there, breaking it down. Rock on to them. Thank God for them. So you've got them, but you've also got other people like freelancers. And funnily enough, and I am generalizing greatly here. Please be aware that I'm generalizing hugely. Funnily enough, a lot of them are writers that are trying to make money so that they can actually do their craft, because there's money out there to be made in editing because people need editors, right? Even if it's just for your copy, for your ads and things like that. And I've done editing jobs for people in the past, absolutely. However, what you want to be aware of is a professional editor who is ingrained in editing is going to do it on a much deeper level than someone who's doing it just to make a buck. I trust that makes sense. Having said that, your wallet will also determine who you go with. And so I wanted to give you a bit of an idea. So there's a couple of places that you can get editors from that are freelancers. So you can go to Fiverr. That's Fivver or Fiverr. I always forget which one the double is. And also freelancer.com, great place for freelancers. Here's what to be aware of when you're going with a freelancer for editing. There's two people that you want to, there's two categories that you want to look at. Everyone else you do not want to even consider, okay? You pretty much get what you pay for, but here's some things to watch out for. Go for an editor that has a lot of ratings and a very high rating. So for example, if I was on Fiverr, I would not even consider looking at someone with a rating of less than 4.8 or less than 200 feedbacks. Wouldn't even consider it. Because if they've got that many ratings and it's still sitting at 4.8, they're doing a good job. I want that person. Now, if you've got someone that's 4.5, they might be cheaper, but it also probably means that their quality is not up to the same kind of scratch. Now, if you've got someone that's got 5 stars, but they've only got 3 feedback, and obviously there's a big chunk in there of user and intuition, but if they've got a 5-star rating and they've only got 3 feedback, it means that, yeah, they're doing a great job, but haven't got a lot of evidence behind them, okay? Here's the thing. They're a great one to go for because they're probably going to be cheaper. They've clearly done a pretty good job with a couple of people. They're new to this. They're building their brand. They're building their business. So it's in their best interest to do a fantastic job. So those are the two groups you want to look at. Someone that's got a very high rating and a very high number of feedback, or someone that's got a very high rating and very little feedback, like less than 5. If they've got say 10 feedback and they're less than 5 stars already, that's dangerous. I wouldn't even touch it. So I wouldn't touch anything in the middle of those two extremes. I trust that makes sense. The only reason I'm looking at 4.8 and not 5 on this big end is you can't keep everyone happy. I know this from experience. You're always going to find someone that thinks that you should be doing more for them. So they're never going to get a 5-star rating, and that's okay. That's understandable. But on this end, where they haven't had a lot, then any non-5-star rating is questionable. Again, still use your intuition. But if they're sitting on 3 stars and they've had 20 feedbacks, you don't want to touch that. No way, you would not touch that. So this one up here is going to cost more. This one down here is going to cost less. So depending on your budget, those are your options. This is a safe bet. So lots and lots of feedback, really high feedback, safe bet. Not much feedback. And here's another one that you can consider. Someone that's had no feedback. They're brand new to it. They're probably going to be really cheap, and they're going to want to do a fantastic job for you because you're going to be their first lot of feedback. That's a good one to go for too, but very risky because you don't have the evidence. Anything in the middle is just silly. So those two ends, smart option, very safe, smart option, very risky. Everything in the middle, just stupid. Not a smart option. I trust that makes sense. I hope that helps with you when you do go looking for freelancers. And this goes for everything, whether it be cover design, editing, whatever you utilize a professional freelance service for, keep that in mind. And I trust that it makes sense why you would approach it that way. Anything in the middle might be cheaper, but it's a huge risk because they've already proven themselves to not deliver the quality consistently. And that's what it's about, consistency. Awesome. Also remember, with a professional editor, whether it be a freelancer or someone who's been recommended because that is what they do, that is their job, you still need to do the work. So an editor very rarely will just do the changes for you. They will make suggestions, say, I recommend that you do this, move this around here, and this is why, but it's still up for you to implement. So they might make some changes, particularly in proofreading. They'll do changes directly into the document, but quite often you still need to make those changes or accept those changes. For example, if you're using Word, it'll be under the I can't remember the actual name of it, tracking. Okay, so track changes. So you'll still need to go in there and accept change, accept change, accept change. Don't go accept all, ever, and I'll explain that in a minute. Or if it's a hard copy, if it's actually a hard printed copy, they will be doing editing marks, and it'll be up to you to implement that editing straight in. Now, here's the thing, as a writer, even when I'm doing my self-editing for the first round, I still need to implement my own changes. So I don't just change it directly into the main document. I'll do a copy of the main document, because as I said yesterday, don't delete anything or overwrite anything, and then I'll make changes in there, or I'll print it up and I'll do my written changes and then put it into the document. Okay, so same thing. So friends, and I'll go into this more in a moment, friends are not professionals unless they are. What that means is friends and family are not professional editors unless they actually are professional editors, and that's what they do. Okay, otherwise they're critical friends at best, or reader. That's it. Nothing beyond that. You can ask them to do editing on it. Maybe they're pretty good with English or whatever, but keep in mind that they're not a professional unless they are. So when you're getting a professional editor, remember how I said before that you need to accept all the changes, but don't accept all? The reason is you really want to be implementing 85 to 90%, 95% of the suggestions made by a professional editor. The high-end professional editor, you're going to be closer to 95%. A freelancer, particularly a new freelancer, probably closer to 80, 85%. But realistically, for a professional editor, you want to aim to be accepting and implementing 85 to 90% of their suggestions and changes. Reason is they're editing from their experience and map, but they are the professional. So listen to them, but listen to you as well. Listen to your instincts. So here's the thing. If you're implementing more than 95% of the suggestions, you're giving away your own voice. You're not putting in the effort to consider each of those suggestions, and you're just taking the easy path and going, sure, they're a professional. Yep. And you may actually be losing something in there. You need to check every single one. On the flip side, if you're accepting less than 85%, you're not listening to the professional. Now, if you're accepting like less than 50%, you're really, really, really not listening, and you need to get out of the freaking way. And at that point, I would say step back, because you're attached to what you've created, and that's okay. That's okay. But also look at it and go, this is a professional. They're giving me professional advice on how to make this better. Look at it that way. It's very important when you make a connection with an editor that you have discussions so that you know that you're a match and that you're aligned. Otherwise, you might find yourself going, none of this is, what are they trying to do? Why are they changing this? Make sure you align with them first, but then get out of the way and trust that they're the damn professional. At the same time, trust that you're the writer who's intuitively allowed this to come through. So 85 to 95% of their feedback is what you should be implementing for a professional. Be really clear on your expectations. So when you make that connection before you actually go into the working relationship, do your diligence, do your due diligence, make sure you've done a spell check, Grammarly. Don't make it difficult for them, clean it up as much as possible, and be really clear on expectations on both sides. Know what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Be really clear about it, have an agreement, have that signed, and stick to it, and don't ask them to go outside of it. This is so important. Do not ask your editor to go outside of the agreement, because the agreement is for what they've agreed to. They are professionals. You need to respect that. It's just like any agreement. Most of you are in business. It's the same thing. If you sign an agreement with someone and they're asking you to step outside of it, you will say no, or you should say no. Yeah, cool. So moving on, friends and family. Like I said before, friends and family are not professionals unless they are. So if you do ask them to look at your work, know the purpose of it. Know that it's as a critical friend or as a reader, and it's to get that feedback. Also know if they're your audience or not, because the feedback that you get, what you implement, will be based on whether they're your audience or not. Because if they're not, they might say, oh, this part doesn't work for me. I don't like that. But if they're not your audience, it might not actually matter. It might be, well, that's actually targeted to my audience, so that's cool. So really know who they are, know where they're coming from, and be really clear with them with your expectations as well, and make sure that they know that you're not necessarily going to implement anything. You just want that kind of outside opinion. Now, if they are a professional editor and they can disconnect their personal association with you, rock on. I would recommend still go outside and get somebody external anyway, just to kind of avoid all of that. Trust your intuition. Again, trust your intuition. And if it's friends or family, you still want to implement, because here's the thing: the feedback that they're giving you is valuable. Feedback is always valuable because you're getting feedback as a reader. So listen, but you probably only want to be implementing maybe 60 to 80% maximum. Okay, if you're implementing more than 80% off the back of friend or family, again, you're giving yourself away. Unless they are a professional, then obviously that might go up a little bit. But in general, a friend, family, or even critical friend feedback is from their map and from their understanding of the world, their beliefs, their filters. And unless they are your audience, it's not going to be aligned with the message that you're delivering. Keep all of that in mind, and we'll talk more when we go into implementation in a moment. Again, be really clear on your expectations, and trust your intuition. Number one, that's the main thing in all of this. Trust your intuition. Another point that I wanted to make is, with going with friends and family, oh, this is good. Okay, if you ask a member of a friend circle or a family member to read your work, to edit, proofread, critical friend it, whatever you want to call it, are you asking that particular person because it's safe or because you're self-sabotaging? It might be neither, but this is definitely a consideration. So you're asking them because it's safe. They're going to tell me how wonderful I am. They're going to be like, yeah, you're awesome, fantastic, that's wonderful, no, don't change anything, it's perfect. They're going to do that. Is it safe? Does it mean you're not going to be judged? Or are you self-sabotaging because you will be judged? Think about that. Now, if it's neither, rock forth. But if it's either of those, steer clear. Like, just avoid it. You've got a group in here of people that are going through the same experience that can be critical friends. All you need to do is on the page, put a call out and ask. That's it. Or contact them directly, which is what I did with one of you guys. I contacted Kiara and they were critical friends. That's it. So last thing that I wanted to get into is implementation. Check everything. I've already said this. I've already said why. Check every single little change. Does it align? Check it for context. If you're unsure, if you're like, I'm not too sure what that means or why they've made that change, ask them. Like, it's so funny because so often people will say, they'll speak about how somebody else said this and somebody else told them that, and they weren't too sure why about it. I'm like, did you ask them? And so instead they'll come to me and they'll expect me to know this person's internal thought processes, because they don't know their internal thought processes. So for some reason they think that I will. I'm sure you've all done that. I've done that. And I'm sure you've had people come to you with that as well. But here's the thing. Ask the person. So if you've got an editor or a critical friend or a friend or family member, reader, whatever it is, and they've said something and you're not too sure what it means, do not, please, don't fear that they're going to judge you for not understanding what they've said. Just ask them what they meant by that. So can I get a bit of clarity around this? And here's the other thing. Do not, in implementation, never, ever argue or defend. Feedback should be taken with thank you, not an argument, not a defense. Ask questions for clarity, but you shouldn't be saying, like, avoid doing this, okay? Because this is, again, a righteousness and a perfectionism. Avoid doing the, oh, well, I did that because of this. Sorry, guys, dropped out for a second. There we go. So avoid saying, I did that because of this. Or avoid saying, oh, yeah, no, I get that, but I'm going to leave it this way because of blah, 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 blah. You don't need to defend or justify, and you don't need to excuse. Just say thank you. They don't need to know if you're taking on all of their feedback or not. In fact, if you've made it clear with expectations from the start, they know that you're only going to take on the feedback that is appropriate for your audience. Cool? Yeah. So don't defend. There's no need for it. There's nothing to defend, and don't argue. Don't particularly if you've got a professional who's taking their time to give you their years of experience. Don't argue as to why what they've suggested is wrong. Can you understand how offensive that is? To argue with a professional who's giving you this help and assistance and providing you with 10, 20, whatever it may be, years of experience, and then to turn around and go, yeah, I don't agree with you. You don't have to say, it's okay if you don't. It's okay if your intuition's no, leave it. But just say thank you and walk away. Like, you really don't have to argue. I trust that makes sense. And I trust that will actually serve you in a lot of areas outside of what we're just talking about right now as well. And again, being guilty of it a lot. Hell's yeah. Because I always have to be right. Something from my past and something that's very human, and it's okay. So hopefully that's some really cool feedback for you right there. What else have we got here under implementation? Check everything. Yep. Oh, yes. So if you get the same feedback, so if you actually get 2 people to read it and you get the same feedback twice, that's telling you something. Okay? Just putting that out there. Because I know, and again, I'm going to refer to myself because I was stubborn as hell when I started out. So I would get the feedback from something and I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to use that. And then I'd get the same feedback again on the exact same thing, exact same feedback. And at that point, I had to be like, okay, I should probably listen. If you're getting the feedback twice, it's really telling you something. You still don't need to implement it. I have had that happen as well, where I've been like, that's cool. I get it. They're not getting that deeper message. So they've actually given me this feedback, and I have seen the feedback and I've taken it to a different level and gone, that's not the issue. The issue is I'm not doing this. So I've changed this. So instead of changing what I got the feedback on, I changed the camera dropped out. I think that's what happened last time as well. It happened yesterday or the day before, whenever it was. So anyway, we're almost done. I just had a couple more things that I wanted to cover with you. So what I was saying is about feedback. If you get it twice or if you get it more than once, accept it, or not accept it, but consider it, but also consider it on the deeper level. So what I was saying is that I had the feedback up here, and I actually took a deeper level because I know my message, I know my audience, I know my purpose. And if you want to put it in the context of squirrels, I know spine. I know my spine, I know my message, I know my audience, I know my purpose, I know my intentions, I know so much more than my reader. So what I noticed is they weren't getting the point I wanted to make. It wasn't about what they noticed, it was actually that I needed to make a point better so that they could pick it up. So trust that makes sense as well. Keep note of those kind of things. And are you resisting or fearing? So when it comes to implementation, implementing feedback, so you've got the feedback there and you're like, is it that your intuition's saying, no, that's not right? And usually it will be that quick. So you won't be like going, and about it. It'll be your intuition will be like, no, this is fine. It's got to be this way. Or are you resisting being wrong? Because if somebody's giving you feedback and you accept that as right, does that mean that you're wrong? I'm going to leave you with that thought process. The short answer is no. But I think this is what we get from school, from the school environment. We're taught right and wrong. We're taught that if you say this and you're wrong, I'll correct you with something else. And this is why a lot of people fear. And this is what I did at the start too. I feared the editing process and feedback because I didn't want to be wrong. Oh my God, the world will end. It's only in the feedback that you grow. Okay, if you're getting professionals particularly, oh my God, you're getting gold. You're just getting so much gold. It's not just the editing. You're getting gold of experience and skill. So cool. So are you resisting feedback. If you're not getting a professional editor, are you resisting that? Are you resisting getting the feedback? Are you resisting implementing feedback? Are you fearing what someone will say if you do or don't implement the feedback? So many things to think about. And what a surprise, it all goes way back to mindset again. So I don't need to go over that a little anymore, I don't think, at the moment. If you do want more, obviously, Right Now program for you. So do not defend or justify. I've already covered that. And lastly, I've already covered this as well. Do ask questions to clarify. So don't justify, don't defend, but ask questions for clarity. And all feedback should be taken with a thank you, and it's up to you if you implement and how you implement. Just to give you a bit of a refresher, so professional editors, if you're getting a professional editor, you want to implement about 85 to 90%. If it's not a professional editor, you don't want to go above 60 to 80%. Okay, trust your intuition. Number one, your intuition is correct. However, be very aware of your own resistance, your own safety, your own self-sabotage. That's in who you choose to work with, whether you do choose to go professional, friend, family, etc. If you're writing a book, please get a professional editor. In the Right Now program, we go so much deeper into all the options in regard to editing, how to proof, how to edit, how to get professional services. We've got a whole list that'll be up soon of professional editors that you can connect with. I've made some really cool connections in the last couple of months, and so I'll be actually having those links available for you as well. So your task today, nobody joined me today, I'm very lonely. Your task today will be by 5 p.m. tomorrow to complete the final draft of your project intention, whatever that happens to be. And then tomorrow we're going to move into editing. Now, into publishing. Now, if you're feeling pretty good, if you're feeling keen, if you're feeling like you've squished that perfectionism thing, and if you've followed the process, then you should be in a place where you're feeling pretty okay with this. I'd love to invite you to post your final draft of your project intention. So I will post mine. So I will put my article up there for you guys to see. I'm actually, after this, going to post my second draft one. So you'll actually be able to see if there's, much of a difference going on and what I've changed, etc. So I hope a couple of people will post that. That would be really, really cool to see. And I invite you all to do that. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about publishing. I'm going to share with you some really cool stuff that will potentially save you tens of thousands of dollars. Now, if you're somebody who's writing a book and you have no idea to publish, I guarantee it will save you thousands of dollars. So join us for that tomorrow. I've got some really exciting stuff for you. Actually, I had a brief conversation earlier today with someone who mentioned that they have a friend who's been advised by their mentor to contact 20 publishers. And that really intrigued me. So I'm going to talk about that tomorrow as well, and why that intrigued me. And I'm going to let you know the options with publishing and how to take the first step on each of those as well. Okay, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Tomorrow is going to be massive, 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 huge amounts of gold, money saving tips, and it's going to be phenomenal. So until then, get to your final draft, post that by 5 p.m. tomorrow, and I will. Michelle, you just jumped on. I'm just saying goodbye. Okay, so I am going to head off now because I've gone through everything. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for all the publishing gold. And until then, have a great night and rock forth with awesomeness. See you, Michelle.